Hello, can you hear me? I think your microphone is muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You're a little quiet though.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Also good. You're still a little bit quiet. I'm not sure if your microphone is
Hold on. Right. What about now?
a little better. I'll just turn up my volume, I guess.
Is it working? Right. Can you say something?
Yep. Test one, two. Test one, two. Test one, two, three.
It's not coming through the.
Test one, two, three. Test one, two, three.
Johnny, it's not actually coming through my headphones, so I've taken them off.
Yeah, yeah. Try disconnecting and then plugging in your headset and then reconnecting.
Oh, what? Reconnecting to Zoom?
Yeah,
Okay. Give them a minute.
sure. All right, let's see. 0 viewers. It's all good. Yep. So, I guess it might be good to kind of talk about what the whole idea of this video will be. So, what I want people to understand is kind of a little bit more about freelance teaching online. All right, there we go. All right, can you hear me? Test one, two, three. Test one, two, three. Test one, two, three. Test one, two, three. I can't hear you if you're talking. Test one, two, three. Of a little bit more about. All right, so while I'm waiting for Domino to get back online and fix her tech-related issues, which are common, um, I guess I'm just gonna explain a little bit about the purpose of this, right? So the purpose is to help people understand what it's like to teach English freelance online. Looks like she's messing with the microphone. Um, and kind of help you understand the process flow, um, maybe even why I do it, and how I do it. Right? So I'm not sure if she can hear me, but maybe if you want, you can try reconnecting. Let me send her a message. Let me send her a message. Oh, guess not. Okay, so here I have an agenda, some topics, and we're going to kind of talk about these bullet points here and talk about some questions. Okay, so I can't see or hear you now, which is even worse than what it was before. I think I might have seen something. All right. So I'm just gonna go through the agenda a little bit, and when she's online, I'll, I guess, summarize it. So a little bit about myself. I graduated ASU, Arizona State University, in business, and I started working in a corporate job right after. But I didn't like it because I didn't have the kind of flexibility that I was looking for. So I wanted to work online, and I wanted to work in a field that I'm going to continue pursuing for a long time. And for me, that's teaching. So that's kind of why I teach. But the reason I do it online is because it gives me the flexibility that I'm looking for. There's a lot of online teaching jobs where you can teach students with companies like VIP Kids and stuff like that. Okay, cool. Um, if you have questions, you could just drop it in the chat and I'll answer them. So yeah, I teach online because it gives me the flexibility that I'm looking for, and it allows me to live in whatever city I want to. And the reason that's beneficial is because I can move to a city. Oh, I can see something. Okay, I can hear you too. Perfect.
That's ridiculous. I have my camera switched off. Sorry.
It's alright. Technical issues happen all the time. Anyway, yeah. So I was just kind of talking about myself because I'm recording this video and it's gonna go online as well. So I want people to understand a bit. But anyway, yeah. So I was just talking about like how and why I teach online. But before we continue, I'm kind of curious about like um, why are you curious about like teaching freelance online? I checked out your website, and that's pretty much how I teach as well, like one-on-one Skype sessions, you know?
Mhm. I wanted flexibility. I've been in the corporate world for about 30 years. I've done a lot of teaching and training, and I got fed up with having a boss. And I got my TEFL, and I went straight to teaching here in Brighton because there's loads of language schools here, and that was great. Teaching online is great, and I do enjoy it, but I find it really lonely.
Yeah, yeah. Like lonely as in like as an online community, it's kind of lonely, or like lonely as in like real life.
Online community, I'm kind of building, and I'm getting myself out there. I think when I love talking to students. That's the highlight of it. I love it. And then it's just me in the house. Like, oh, I got no one to talk to.
Yep.
So that's why I reached out to the group. That's why I joined the group, and that's why I talked to you, because I thought there's no point me sitting here feeling that way. Let's do something about it.
Exactly. And I mean, I figured the same thing. I taught online for like a month or two for iTutor group, and I that's when I used to live with my cousin and her husband, but they were working all day and I was alone at home like all day just teaching in my room. And so I felt super isolated, right? And I know exactly what you mean. But for me the solution to that problem was something called co-living. Essentially just living with a lot more people. Um,
Yes.
if I want to summarize it as quickly as possible. But that's good because I walk out of my room and there's people outside, and the kind of people who live at these spaces usually have different types of schedules, like so you might come across someone and then you won't feel lonely.
Yeah, what I've just done is actually joined a couple of networking groups in Brighton, for trainers and just for people who want to get together with other self-development type groups, because I'm a really sociable person. So if I go out and meet people, that will give me what I need to, and to network and maybe get work, who knows, but just to get myself out there, really. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you live in a part of town where you have to drive to go out, or do you live in a part of town where you can just walk?
The former.
Okay.
Yeah, I live nearly in the countryside, so you have to get in the car or get the bus to find people. Yeah.
Yeah, so it takes a quite a bit of a commitment to like meet people, right?
It does. You have to really want to go out there and make an effort to do it, sure. Mm.
Yeah. So that's also kind of why I chose to live in like a more densely populated city, and that's also why I teach
Mm.
online because it gives me the flexibility to choose that sort of thing. because I noticed that like relying on a car makes it difficult, and you have to commit a lot of time and effort when you want to meet new people.
This is very true. Well, I think I'm in a transition period anyway in life, so I'm not too worried about. I think my natural self will come to the surface eventually, and I'll get myself out there a bit more. It's a bit of a period of change for me, having left the corporate world and into online teaching.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a, woo. Oh, this is what it's really like.
Yeah, it's definitely very different. Very, very different. I think it's mostly because in a corporate world, everything is kind of handled for you. Those like basics, like even just like having human interaction, because you go to an office and you work
Yeah.
around people, and then you don't have to worry about schedules and that sort of stuff because the corporate life handles that for you. But as a like freelance online English teacher, you have to do all that stuff on your own.
Yeah, and I guess I'm also frustrated with my lack of marketing and social media. So I've spent the last couple of months really trying to understand that with my web designer's help to sort of I understand what I should be doing on Facebook and Instagram. And so I've had to learn a lot in a short space of time
Yeah,
about social media.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I kind of wrote that on the agenda as well. Um,
Did you? Okay.
I don't know if you can see my screen. Let me share it.
Okay.
Because I'm also streaming live. I'm sharing the whole screen, so this way you can see exactly what is
Cool.
going on. Alright, so um,
Oh, great.
let's go up. So I have this little agenda here. I was scrolling down the group and I added some questions that I saw in there. Um, so a little agenda about me, teaching in general, that sort of stuff, right? And some random names.
Great.
Yeah, let me just finish talking about myself a little bit, and then
Sure.
I'll let you talk about yourself, and then we can talk about teaching. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, we kind of mentioned like why we started teaching, the flexibility and that sort of stuff. And personally, I started by applying for these companies where I can teach online, and I kind of strayed away from teaching students. I just couldn't get into like the whole acting and um, props and that sort of stuff, especially online. It feels weird for me, but teaching adults is totally fine with me. And so after I got into that, um, you have to maintain like above a 9 out of 10 for that website. And after teaching for about 2 months, I had students, like I even had a class where there was a student that gave me like a 6 out of 10, and another student in the same class gave me a 10 out of 10. So, I don't know. Anyway, after a few of those happened, like, then I got below a 9 out of 10 and they fired me, so I had to look for something else. But I wanted to continue teaching in that way, and I kind of developed my teaching style and my material. Kind of, I got inspiration from them, right? And I think it's a really good way of teaching, so I want other people to also be able to do this. But the biggest problem I found was that I don't have material. The kind of material that you need to teach online in this way, um, I guess it's kind of specific, so it's hard to find online. So I started making my own and putting it online so that other teachers can also use it, right?
Mm. Yeah,
So,
I teach with Camberley, and they supply a lot of the materials.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure they do. I haven't really checked out Cambly too much, but after I did that sort of thing, I had some contacts for like some potential students, so I didn't start from complete scratch. I had a few clients already, so for me it wasn't like the end of the world. But what about yourself? So how did you start teaching, and how come you wanted to do it online?
Um, I think I just wanted that independence and being at home for a while I was trying to figure out what to do, because I got my TEFL and I've got lots of teaching experience, and I got a local job really quickly teaching classrooms of students from France and Spain, and that happened really quickly. Um, and I really love that bit. In fact, secretly, I think that's where I'd rather be, in the classroom setting. But there wasn't enough work out there. And actually, the online was a very interesting. It's another tool, isn't it? It's another method of teaching where you're having to do things differently. You're having to use your teaching methods um, in a slower way, almost.
What do you mean in a
Especially
slower way? Can you kind of
well,
describe that?
when there's a delay on the line,
Yeah, yeah.
And when you can't understand the accent, I teach a few Japanese students at the moment. They've become regulars for me, and that can be quite challenging. Um, but not insurmountable. But it just, you have to put on different ears for different pronunciation. Um, so I've kind of been doing both. I'm still doing some classroom teaching and I'm still doing some online teaching, but I'd like to grow the online teaching. But I'm actually now thinking about doing things a bit differently and changing my niche. But that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed on your site, I think you target like French students or something.
Yes, I
I
have been. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Um that's
uh,
kind of like how I approached it at first. Um but I think it would be good if you don't specify just French, because you mentioned yourself you have Japanese students too.
yes. What I'm thinking of doing actually is going back to my passion in life, which is I can train people. I'm very good at helping people through career discussions. I'm actually a former careers advisor.
Okay.
So a lot of my clients, I've been talking to them about career development, about how to do interviews, how to answer questions, how to apply for university, because I've said that in my profile. And public speaking and presentation skills are a big offer for me. And somehow I want to try and use that to become my niche.
Yeah, you definitely can. You just have to make it really obvious, like on your website
Yeah.
and that sort of stuff. So
And
I
actually,
think,
talking of websites, you're supposed to try and optimize them with all the different Google search words, keywords, which is a whole, you need A levels in this stuff to understand it, but
yeah,
um,
yeah,
getting there.
marketing and SEO development, that sort of stuff is
Oh, yeah,
not easy.
no.
I studied
No.
some of that sort of stuff in college. I mean, I have a background in computer information systems, so I did some of the coding. I made a website from scratch, and I understand how it's a pain in the butt.
It really is. And I don't want to get too bogged down in it, but I do realize that I've got to keep up with this stuff and try and understand it because otherwise I'll just get left behind.
Yeah.
And, it's just a new, a new skill I've just got to learn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But you know what though? You mentioned that it's just like something you don't know yet, but there's other people that just don't want to learn that sort of stuff. I mean, you're enthusiastic about learning it, but there's plenty of people that are just like not interested. And I hope that maybe if like we can develop a bigger online audience through these kind of things, we can share resources and that sort of stuff so that other teachers who want to teach online as a freelancer don't have to learn those things and don't have to do that sort of stuff, but they can still benefit from getting students, right?
Yeah. And I think there are a lot of different teachers' experiences out there. I think some of them are really busy and don't have time to think about building a community online.
Yeah.
Uh, and some of them aren't very busy and don't have enough students and don't quite know how to build a community online. I think there's very different experiences going on out there.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Um, so the next thing on the agenda on the agenda is teaching online in general, right? So how I teach. Um, Let me see. I think I could just show people how I teach.
Mm.
It'll be really simple. So I have a landing page. I mean, similar to kind of like what you had. And when I want new students, I tell them to go to this page. I don't know. Have you seen this?
No.
Okay, so I just tell my students to check this page out where they can sign up for a free assessment, pay for lessons, and I host all my material on my site as well. So it's just using Google Photos, and when I make a new lesson, I just upload it here. And let me show you an example. Here's coffee. So the idea is to keep it simple. It's just like PowerPoint slides. And I ask my students to read. I correct them when they make mistakes. I ask them to do more reading and matching so they can associate pictures with words. I ask them questions so they can have some conversation practice and open discussion. And I also put really big pictures here because I ask them to describe the pictures. So
Yeah.
I'll challenge them by telling them, in one complete sentence or something like that. More reading, some vocabulary. This helps with like pronunciation and comprehension, I guess, for the words. Some sentences so that they can actually put it to use, and that way they actually memorize it much faster. Some unscrambling with the answers, and then a few more questions. And this material takes around 45 minutes. And my lessons are about 1 hour, so 45 minutes of material and then 15 minutes of open discussion. And that's pretty much how I teach. How do you like to teach, like online one-on-one?
Well, I like the student to do a bit of work. I don't want to have to do all the work because I think we should be talking about their motivation if they're not willing to do stuff. So that's a big part of it for me. I'm very happy to help them and lead them on their way and say, read this, look at that, listen to this podcast, watch this TED Talks. I'll send them links to things. And I do have lesson plans that I can use, but I like the learner to go where the natural interest might lie, and see if they're passionate about books or drama or sport. Then I think that they might be more likely to go away and read or listen to something. And I also say to them, it's not enough just to talk to me.
Yeah.
You've got to go do some reading and other practice without me, because you have a whole world out there where you can learn English. I'm just a facilitator, if you like, to help you keep going.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, what they get most of having a class with one of us, I guess a native speaker, is that they get exposure to a native speaker. Whereas if they like meet up with other non-native speakers and they practice their English there, they're gonna pick up from them, which is not necessarily 100%, good.
Very true.
Um,
Very true.
but yeah, I ask my students to do some activities outside of the lessons, like listen to podcasts so we can talk about it later, or like make some sentences, like some homework assignments and that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
So, what would you say are some of the pros and cons of teaching online? I wrote here some pros, right? So, flexibility, and for me, like the student-teacher relationship. You mentioned you have some regular Japanese students as well. How long have you had them for?
Oh, a couple of months, some of them. Yes, on and off. I also have a couple of Turkish students who are quite interesting because they're both very business orientated as well.
Yeah,
Um, so they're there to heighten their professional skills. Um, the pros I would agree, flexibility. It's really nice building up that rapport with your student and building a relationship. And I'm talking to a lady at the moment who's applying for a traineeship in Turkey, and I've been talking to her for about 3 weeks now. And we've gone through all the steps. We've practiced her interview questions, and today she has a big event where they're all going to go to the company and find out more. So it's been nice to have that sense of continuance with her, that I know her story.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and on top of that, you can kind of recommend things that are relevant to what they want to learn, like very specific to what they want to learn.
yes, it can become very, very learner centric that way. Um, you can really deal with their concerns, their pronunciation, their experience. So it becomes very much around them and their needs, which is lovely. I think that's a real pro.
Yeah, yeah. I mentioned this, like the student-teacher relationship, because when I was teaching for iTutor group, I didn't ever like every single class would have a new group of students, and I would never have a class with the same students. So it was always like from scratch, and that can get kind of taxing after a while as well. um,
I could, yeah, it is, because you also don't really know their level. You don't know what you're dealing with. Yeah.
yeah, I mean the system kind of accommodated for that. It like put them on a level and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, okay.
But
Right.
yeah, so now let's move on to some of the cons. Or are there other pros that you can think of before we move on to the cons?
Well, I think what I just said comes under teacher relationship. I guess also in terms of teaching, you can become very niche and really choose. It's your decision who you want to teach,
Yeah.
what you want to teach. I guess I just add to that a bit like what I'm trying to do with my stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. You have the flexibility to choose how to teach, and that's important for me because sometimes I go on these platforms about like how to teach English online or like these different boards, I guess, where you can find teachers.
Yeah.
Some of them require you to teach in a very specific way, you know. But yeah, those are some of the pros.
I'm just also going to say, for me, I can use all my prior experience and knowledge of my work, my careers work, my training work, and they've been really valuable. So I can draw on my experience with that student through question and exploring and putting them at their ease, making them feel relaxed, all the things that I've learned in my previous career.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. One of my students also has like a teaching, not a teaching, but like a programming course online, and he also takes like one-on-one students, but he has to sell the course, the program. And I have some experience with sales, so when he learned that I had some experience, I was able to like customize some of the material. Like, oh yeah, let me put you in a situation where you might have to make a sale and what you should say, or like let's do some role play, um, see how your sales process is and that sort of stuff, right?
That sounds great. Yeah.
And that's just, I mean, coincidence, but I'm sure you have experience that might be useful for your students as well. All right,
Sure.
so let's go talk about some of the cons. We talked about isolation earlier, right? So, working from home, you can feel kind of isolated. For me, the
Mm.
solution was a co-living space
Yeah.
or even a co-working space. But the problem with teaching English is that you need a private room. Like if you look around, there's nobody around me, and we're not bothering anyone. And having a private room can be kind of hard to kind of maintain if you're traveling, which I like to do.
Mm.
Um, Another con that I noticed was the material. So after I stopped working at iTutor Group, I didn't have any material. Like I had to make my own from scratch. I had to learn how to make my own, and I looked online for material that's like, you know, specifically made for teaching online in the way that I want to, and it was essentially impossible to find. So that's why I decided, well, you know what? If I'm going to make material anyway, maybe someone else will need it down the road. So let me make it publicly available and build a community online.
I think you've really tapped into something there because is there a market there somehow for online teachers like us to, I mean, you've been very generous in publishing your materials and they look really good. I remember I first commented on your yoga stuff, which I love
Yeah.
because I'm a yoga freak. Um, and I love the clarity of the pictures and the way you put it together was lovely. And I thought, gosh, you've put your time and energy into this, and I wonder if there's a little niche there for you to make more of that, and whether we need that somewhere as a resource.
Yeah, definitely. The idea behind that material is to kind of crowdsource it. I want other people, other teachers to also make their own material. It doesn't have to be in the same format, I guess, but other, I want other teachers to make material and upload it onto like a website, a community. In this case, I guess it's that Facebook group, or I also made a Reddit subreddit for this, but that's not active almost at all. um, the idea is to share the material and to get feedback and to kind of bounce ideas off each other. Because right now, most of my students are pretty advanced English speaking students, so most of my material is more geared towards that. And I'm sure like other teachers teach lower level or that sort of stuff, and it would be
Mm.
good because it would also help give us some exposure. If we make material, we can put our name on it, and then when a student or a teacher, well, students theoretically would also have access to this website. When a student browses the material, they're going to see the teacher name who made the material, and they're going to be like, I want that teacher.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, there's a double whammy there. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. So, yeah, we also mentioned that you need like a wide array of skills, right? Like, I wrote down some stuff here: sales, technology proficiency. You have to know how to use like a computer and a headset and that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Marketing, like that's the thing you were wondering, like how to market yourself on Facebook and social media or whatever. Management, like we had to manage like when the lessons are, like scheduling, hosting the lessons, and if you have group lessons, making sure that everything goes smoothly, and obviously teaching. Is there any skills that I didn't kind of mention that you think should be included on here?
I'm going to go for the softer skills there of maintaining your motivation, being open to learning. So the kind of the internal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I can do it. Who do I ask for help? Reaching out for support, joining communities. Don't isolate yourself. Be open to saying, I don't know, and that's okay. I need to find out. Ask for advice. So I think it's that stuff. It's the actual self-management tools. I think that I've been more kind of drawing on. I think
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, sometimes my students ask me questions and I'm not 100% certain on the answer, so I just Google it. And I don't feel bad about that at all because it's the it's the it's the fastest way for them to get the most accurate information.
Yeah,
Just because I'm a
yeah.
native English speaker doesn't mean I know everything.
Listen, even native speakers don't know everything. No,
Yeah.
yeah, it
Anyway,
does. It does.
so moving on to the next bullet point. I think this is the comment that you posted. How to grow a community of followers online, right? Is that what you posted?
Yeah.
So,
So, hmm,
did you
I
want to elaborate on that a little bit?
yeah, because I don't have any email addresses other than the few students that I have, and I want to get myself out there in advertising. But I'm also aware that you need to go out and help other people before you can ask people to pay you for lessons. You need to kind of make people aware that you're there and you're a good contributor to other people's problems, that you'll help with answering on other people's Facebook groups, and you're out there in the world sort of interacting. You're not just going, give me lessons, come and buy my lessons. Do you see what I mean?
Exactly. And that's kind of why making lessons and uploading it online shows that you're consistently
Yeah.
active, right? Because you also contribute, you also practice this skill, gives you some marketing. It's like I'm trying to convince you to make some material.
Well, and then, yeah, and then you've got people who will keep being reminded that you're there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If you make a new lesson, you can send them an update and be like, new lesson available.
So that was part of the reason that I commented on your yoga lesson, which I loved, was because, well, actually, that really affects me. I love yoga and I really like your lesson. So I was going to tell you that. What's the harm in that? That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And that's collaborative and supportive of you as a teacher. So I want to do more of that rather than trying to find business that way. I think it's got that ripple effect that
Yeah,
you're after.
yeah, exactly. And people see these kind of things. They see this one post and they click on a link, they see something else, they see something else, and they see something else, and then they're convinced,
Yeah,
theoretically.
there's a long line of things that people have to do before they'll actually spend money on a lesson, I think, or spend money on anything really.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Exactly. The worst kind of client is the one that you have to convince to pay.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to tap into something they want, not something they need.
Yeah,
It's got to really come from that area.
something. I wrote that down because I want to talk about it a little later.
Okay, okay.
Um, so yeah, growing a community of followers online. I wanted to say something, but oh man, brain fart. Um, Anyway, so the next bullet point here, as someone else commented on one of the posts, was, do you pay for advertisements on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and what do you mean by marketing? So, um, personally, I did. I paid for advertisements for a little while, for
Mm,
a small period of time, I guess. And it got me a lot of traffic, but the problem with that is that it wasn't very good quality traffic. These were all just people that would look at it and then leave. Like they wouldn't spend time on the website reading it and following through the different steps for for someone to become a student, right?
mm,
But in doing so, I did learn that one of the problems I had, like if I go to my landing page, um, if I go to my landing page, there we go. So initially, when I first made this landing page, a student would click on this, and then they would immediately schedule a meeting. Like there was nothing else. And I realized, hold on, how do I know they're serious about taking lessons? I have to test them, right? So I have this simple placement test here put in place where I ask them a few questions, test their English a little bit,
Oh,
kind of understand their goals, how often they practice, and then I make them accept these, I guess, terms and conditions.
what?
Thus,
Okay, that's interesting. So what happened? Did that result in a different result?
oh yeah, definitely. So I had a lot less people like go through the process, but the people who did make it through the process were much better qualified. Like I know that they're more serious. And
Very
initially,
good. I might have a look at that.
yeah. So it's like a acquisition funnel type of process. This is like type of that. This is part of that marketing thing, you know, what the client process is going to be like. They're going to land on my landing page. They're going to see this big button. They're going to click this big button, and then they're going to do this test, right? It takes a little bit of time, so I know that they're serious. And then I get an
Yes, I think
email. Sorry, did you want to say something?
I'm just going to say I think there are a lot of people who are looking for free lessons, and I think we all know that that's around. And I have offered a free trial lesson that hasn't really got me anywhere. I'm now working on an ebook, which is a different subject, I know, but something that I can advertise for free as a giveaway to
Yeah.
try and get some interest. So, but I like your page very much. Yeah.
Yeah, I highly recommend you do the same because then you don't get a bunch of unqualified leads, I guess. This is part of
Yeah.
that sales process, right? So after they do this sort of stuff, I get an email and then I send them a link so that they can schedule a meeting. Which the link for them to schedule a meeting, so I have my Google Calendar like completely up to date at all times. And I have there's this website called Calendly.com. Have you heard of it?
Yes, I have.
It's super useful and it lets you make different it pretty much just lets you schedule meetings without having to go back and forth with people. So like someone would call, I mean, they would do the test, and then I would respond to the email, and I would send them this link. So they open the link, and what they see is just my availability for the next few weeks. So they click on the day, and they can see, okay, let's make a meeting. Boom, and then meeting set.
Very good.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that requires like being completely up to date with your Google Calendar. So every week, every Monday morning, I go and double check everything. How do you like to schedule the meetings with your students?
I have actually just done it via the form, and I'll get an email from them, and then I follow it up, which is okay because I've got fairly low amounts of clients at the moment, so it's not overwhelming. But if I was really busy, of course, I mean, the idea really is to automate as much as you possibly can. I think so.
Exactly.
You're not dealing with all the admin because who needs to do that when you've got systems like Calendly? So Calendly. So I think it's a fantastic result. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. So yeah, they do this placement test. The other thing I noticed after doing the ads was I initially had this placement test in like a Google Sheets, a Google Forms, like pretty much the same thing but hosted by Google. And the problem with that is I was I was advertising to Chinese cities like Beijing, and Chinese clients can't really use Google. They have to use a VPN, so they don't have access to that domain, which meant that I was wondering like why am I getting zero Chinese clients? Like someone,
So
yeah.
where are you? Where are you finding your advertising is working?
Well, to be honest, word of mouth and social media, because I think that those sources. That's a good question. What type of advertisement is working for you?
I mean, have you have tried Facebook advertising and doing an A and a B split test and that kind of thing?
Yeah, Facebook advertising, and I did Google ads. Um, but both of those lead to very low quality leads. The best kind of advertisement is like posting content, posting my lessons and posting in groups. I keep people up to date. And even like on Instagram, for example, I got a few clients through Instagram. I have an account just for teaching English, but people know that I teach English through all my social media channels. And I post stuff like having a lesson with my student or something. Like post it on my story, or I just try to, you know, help people remember that I teach English, and then through that they give me recommendations, like a word of, like, a client through word of mouth. Oh, I heard about you teach English from a friend, blah blah blah. So social media first, and then it leads to word of mouth, I guess.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah,
S-
I'm think I'm going to advertise my ebook when it's ready and do a bit of Facebook advertising and see, put my toe in the water of Facebook advertising, um, because I'd like to see the result that it gets.
yeah, don't expect anything too crazy. I mean, the numbers are gonna look nice, but they're not like high quality leads.
Okay,
At least that's
good
what
to know.
experience I had. Oh yeah, so I talked about Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. So I upload some of the lessons, like the full lesson, with some of my students if they let me record it and let me post it publicly on YouTube. That's good for a few reasons, because one, it lets the student look at the lesson and they can see like where they made mistakes and how they've improved over time. And two, it's like free marketing for me, because the a potential student might see the video and say, "Oh, I like the way he teaches. I like." They can see like the whole thing. It's uncut, and they can skip through and see how it's all done. So it's also kind of like a form of marketing.
Oh, sorry. Can you hold on a minute? I think I. Hold on a minute.
Sure, no problem.
So sorry about that, Johnny. Yes. Okay. I'm going to have a look at your YouTube. How many have you got up there?
How many videos?
Yeah.
Maybe like 20 videos or so.
Wow.
I have
Gosh.
a variety of videos. Like most of them are just full lessons, and I don't process those videos. I just I use this software here, OBS, which is the same software I'm using to stream on YouTube Live right now. It takes a little bit of learning how to use. You have to like figure out this sort of stuff, and
Wow. That looks, to my eyes, quite complicated stuff.
it's not too complicated. I mean, you could learn how to do it just by watching a YouTube video, I guess. But essentially, yeah, you can record your screen, you can record your audio. See, it's recording my audio, and after the lesson, I just upload it on YouTube without editing at all, because I used to do a lot of like film and video editing, and I know that it takes a long time, and I don't have time for that.
No, exactly. And
So
I think just from seeing the raw, real thing is enough. It's great. It's
exactly,
authentic. It's authentic.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what people want. They want that raw, authentic kind of footage. So yeah, that's the tool I use for that. Um, And one of my students saw she specifically mentioned, I saw your video with this student, who I know from somewhere else, and I want to take lessons, right? So I guess any social media form or channel works, and I advertise everywhere. So I go on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, um, even Twitter, I guess. Sometimes I post my updates. I don't use Twitter though.
Now that's interesting to me. I think I put myself on Instagram because I had an old account. I've done that, so I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. However, I feel like you could spend your whole life just being on social media and looking around. It's very, for me, I think, very draining of my time, because then you get caught up in reading a post and doing this. And I think you have to be careful. I have to be careful about how much time I spend on social media, because it can be really addictive.
Yeah, you have to be careful. I like to look at it in two ways. Like either you're creating content on social media or you're consuming content on social media. And I try to
True.
just focus on creating content. I guess maybe it distracts me long enough that I don't consume content, because
Yeah.
that usually leads to better things.
What I tried to do initially was just focus on Facebook, which is working, and I'm getting some quite nice reactions to my posts, um, and a little bit of engagement, but not much. But I think I'm just doing that for the the sake of letting people know I'm out there and what I'm thinking and what I'm doing. So it's that community thing. Not that I'm going to get something out of it straight away, but it is very time consuming. You know, when I do a post, I think about it. I might research something. I want to put out a good message. You know, for me, I don't just post something really fast. I think about it quite a lot.
Yeah, that's initially how I started too, but it takes a lot of time, so I stopped really um, doing that too much because a lot of people aren't bothered by that sort of stuff. It's more important that you're visible rather than like 100% perfect. And that also made me reminds me of something else. So I mentioned earlier that I tried to advertise in China and stuff, but they use very different social media platforms. Like in China, for example, they use WeChat. That's their number one social media platform, and it's really difficult for someone that's not a Chinese citizen to make advertisements on WeChat. You have to apparently be a Chinese citizen, and it takes time to apply for a non-citizen to use it, and it actually costs money. So
Mm.
marketing in different countries can be difficult, but it can be very beneficial because if you market to a city where the cost of living is very high, you could actually make more money because those people are willing to pay more, usually.
Now that's a really interesting point. So I advertise on Craigslist, and I was advertising in France, and Craigslist got me nothing. Um, and so I'm really keen to know about different ways to advertise in different countries,
Yeah,
other than Facebook, where you can demographically change things.
yeah, each country has its own kind of version of Craigslist or versions of how they advertise. I like to try to see it from the perspective of a student. Sometimes, or recently, what I did recently was go in Google Translate and type in learn English online in Google Translate, and I'll translate it to Chinese or Korean or Japanese, and then put that in Google to see what comes up.
That is okay. So then what happened? Give me an example. That's really interesting.
So what happened was I just like found different websites where you
Yeah,
can apply to teach. Like,
learn English online.
so I put that in
Yeah.
there, copy this, and I open up an incognito tab so it doesn't take any of my cookies, right? And everything is in Korean. I don't understand anything. But you can see the website here, like this Sprock Cafe. So I'm just gonna take a look at this,
Is it
and it looks like it's an article from some sort of magazine. But luckily, Google has translate features, so we can see here.
Rock Cafe?
Yeah, and here they give you recommendations. I guess this is what a typical Korean person might see if they just Google that. They're gonna see these results, and this is not good. Like these are all just. It's not like a live teacher type of thing. Here's one, Fluent U. This one might be a better
Oh,
one.
Fluent U. Yeah, that's a great resource. I like Fluent U.
Yeah, so here I've seen this page before. I don't know why it's not translating, but Allison, I guess this is a website where you can learn MUEC, Future Learn, and this is how I found different companies to like try to apply for and get more clients. Udemy, yeah, but that's just some of the techniques I've resorted to.
Hey, that is really clever. I like so simple, but really, really a good. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, one of my students, the same one that like has this programming course online, told me that you had to create like a customer avatar. Like, what would your customer do? Where would they go? What would the process be like? And if you were Japanese and you couldn't find a teacher to learn English, and you wanted to do it online, what would you put in Google? Where would you look? What social media?
Yeah, that is a very good. That is what I'm mulling over now for my own website. What would people search for? And my web designer has been helping me look up keywords which have got lots of searches on them or whatever, all that side of it. So I'm trying to incorporate that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's definitely gonna help. So yeah, that's marketing. I put on here getting paid. The reason I put that on there is because I was also curious about how other teachers get paid, and I wanted to kind of explain how I get paid because it's a pain in the butt.
Oh, tell me. So why? How come?
Well, Getting paid online is still kind of difficult because some countries make it easy to use like different services like PayPal
Mm,
or Payoneer or TransferWise, Venmo in America, um, all these different ways of getting paid. And
mm,
the problem is they're not it's nothing is like centralized. Like there's no single easy way to get paid. So when I used to work for that company in China, they would send me a wire transfer. I don't know how much that
mm.
would cost them, but that's how they paid me. Um, and now when I get paid from my students, I take like I have a credit card system online. Like that took me a while to have to accept credit cards. Um, I have that. I also take something like PayPal, and honestly, I even take Bitcoin because some students that is the easiest way to get paid. As
Okay,
strange as it sounds, hey, for me it works.
that's amazing.
I know, right?
I
How do you get paid online?
PayPal, and if it doesn't work, I've just given them my account details for one student in France who just couldn't seem to work out PayPal. I kind of knew her already, so I was happy to give her my bank account details. But PayPal's worked fine for me. But yeah, Bitcoins, I didn't even know I could do that. So there you go. That's a bit of learning for me.
Yeah, a big reason people don't use Bitcoin is because it can be hard to cash out, but I've
Yeah.
managed to work it out.
You're clever than I am on that then.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I told you
Never to.
I studied computer information systems in college, so I was always very tech oriented.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a weird one because you think PayPal is going to work the whole world over because that's what they kind of give you this image of, but it's actually not true.
Yeah, yeah. So PayPal is good for like transferring money online, but in order for me to accept credit card payments, I tried to use PayPal, but I couldn't. I had to use Square,
Oh yeah.
which is
Okay.
only because I have like a bank account in America, I can open up accounts on Square.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But for teachers that don't, I don't know what they're gonna do. Maybe they'll take Bitcoin or other wire transfers. Anyway, so I only have a few minutes left. I actually have a lesson soon. Um, last
Okay.
thing I mentioned was that it's something they want, not necessarily something they need. Something I noticed with these lessons with these students is that they come initially thinking that their English isn't good enough, but I think they realize over the course of these lessons that it's what they lack really is self like confidence in speaking the language. Like they're very self-critical, and they're like, oh, I made so many mistakes, I sound bad or whatever, and I'm embarrassed. And I think a big part of the job is just giving them that confidence in speaking English, right? So I don't think they even realize that it's what they need. Like, so we give them what they want, which is like the English material and stuff like that. But what they really need might be something else.
Well, I think what I said there, I completely agree with you, by the way. And I found that with a lot of French students, they won't speak to me, but they're amazing. They actually really know what they're doing, but they're just so worried about their pronunciation.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I agree with you there. And they really don't want to look silly, and they're holding back the whole time. But when I was talking about something they want, not what they need, I think for me that was about to actually have lessons. They have to really feel that there's a lack in their life, that they've got to have these lessons, or else they can't. They're missing something. There's a pain point, isn't there? That
yeah,
and which goes to what you were saying. We know what they need, but they think that might not be the same for them.
yeah, exactly,
Um,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, so you gotta have
So,
like a pain point or urgency. That's why I sometimes ask my new clients like, um, what was like the last situation where you felt like your English wasn't good enough, or were you ever embarrassed by your level of English?
yeah.
These are tough questions for them to answer because it could be kind of embarrassing, but it's part of the sales process because they feel bad. They're like, "Oh yeah, I felt bad," and then you give them a solution and you tell them, "Well, I got the solution for you.
Yeah, and it's a contract, isn't it? It's a psychological contract almost to say I trust you to help me not only learn the language but make it okay for me to make loads of mistakes and feel like a bit of an idiot and
Yeah,
get my sentence the wrong way round. And you, as my teacher, are totally 100% there for me, and it won't matter. So so with some clients, you just build up a lovely rapport with them, where they just really want what you've got for them, and but it's the way you've got to do it. You know, you've got to do it in a certain way, or I feel that I have to do it a certain way, where students feel it's about the engagement that you've got with the teacher, not just it's a lesson.
yeah, exactly. And that's also kind of like a big portion of what kind of clients I get. A lot of clients I get just don't have anyone to speak to in English. That's good
Exactly.
enough. So for them, I
Yeah.
notice it's not necessarily too important, like even the topic, or for them, they just literally want to speak English, you know? For some.
Yes, that's very true. They just want someone to talk to in English, and which you have to be careful of, because then you can just end up drying up and not having a conversation. So I try and add a little bit of structure and actually then find out what it is they're working towards. Is there some kind of goal that they want? Is there something in their life that they're trying to improve their English for?
Exactly.
Otherwise, you just go around in circles.
Yeah. Yeah, most of my students say they want it for like a new job or they need to speak English or something like that. So I have like 2 minutes left.
Oh,
Um, do you have any burning questions or comments you want to make before we have to cut this off?
my comment would be it's been fantastic talking to you. I'm really glad that we made this happen, and let's do it again.
Yes, I 100% agree. We should definitely do it again. Do you think it would be good if we do this regularly, like once a week or once
Um,
every 2 weeks?
Once every couple of weeks, once a month, yeah, and definitely use this and give it to the group and tell them that we'd like to get more people on board, because I think there's some real. I've learned a lot from you, and I'm sure we could all, that saying, you get a lot of brains in the room, you create another brain, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I 100% agree. That's why I did this, because I mean, eventually someone's got to step up.
Well, listen, yes, thank you so much.
Yes, likewise. Thank you so much, Domino, and we'll keep in touch, and I'll let you know when we have the next one, and hopefully we can get some more people on board.
Thanks, Johnny. Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.